Hey there, you just clicked on First Down Punts. Nice move. This is a podcast about football and how it relates to fantasy football. Hope you like what you hear. We're going to get this thing started. Let's get crazy. And welcome in to another episode of First Down Punts. I'm your host, Coach Chris. Today we're going to be doing the schedule review and record predictions for the NFC South and the AFC South. We're going to combine these last few divisions just to try to get through them real quick so we can get back into some fantasy football, get into some preseason stuff. We did just have our first preseason game on Thursday. Lions got their ass kicked by the Chargers simply because they couldn't hold on to the ball and weren't doing too well as far as their offense looked or their defense looked, but they weren't playing a lot of even second stringers, let alone starters. So I don't think a starter played for either team in the game, and there was only a handful of second and third stringers, or second stringers that played. It was mainly third and fourth stringers. So we are getting reports out that guys like Bryce Young are going to play in the first couple preseason games. You're going to see stuff in Cleveland with who's starting what preseason game. But for right now, we still, like I said, we have only had the one on the Hall of Fame game on Thursday. It is now Sunday evening, and we're going to get into the NFC South and the AFC South. We will do the NFC South first, so the Bucs, Falcons, Panthers, and Saints. This year, that division plays the NFC West and the AFC East. So those will be 8 of the 17 games they have, and then obviously the 6 in their division. And then each team plays a corresponding spot. If you finish first, you play a first-place team from another division for the other 3 games. But at the end of the day, we'll kick this off with the last year's division champ, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They went 10-7 last year and then lost in the first round to the Washington Commanders in the playoffs. Week 1, they are at Atlanta. If you've heard in my other videos, I'm a big fan of what Atlanta's doing this year. The Bucs are missing Tristan Wirfs, their left tackle, for the first few weeks. We're not sure if Godwin's going to be healthy to start the season yet. So, and they still got some new players on defense that they got to work in. Signed Hassan Reddick in the offseason. So they got a couple things that they got to get into and get worked out before I'm going to have confidence that they're going to be better than the team they were last year. I do think they're going to be very similar to what they did last year as a team and maybe be able to score a little bit more points if Godwin is healthy. But missing your left tackle is going to hurt for the first 3-4 weeks. So week 1 at Atlanta, I have that as a loss to the Falcons. Falcons start off 1-0. Bucs start off 0-1 simply because I think Atlanta is going to come out firing on all cylinders. Now, the Mooney injury, not knowing exactly when he's going to be back, that hurts a little bit. But I worked through this before that news came out, so we're going to stick with what I got here for now. Week 2 at Houston on Monday Night Football. Like I said, about Atlanta, if you watch my other videos, you know I think the Texans are going to be good this year. I think they're going to be a playoff team this year as well, so we'll get into that when we get into the AFC South. But right now, at Houston, I have that as a loss for the Bucs. So the Bucs start 0-2. Week 3 versus the Jets. This was a tougher game for me to choose simply because I think the Bucs probably are the better team, but wounded against a good defense and a running quarterback with a good run game with Breece Hall, Braylon Allen, even the Isaiah Davis kid is making a little noise in camp this year again. So we'll see with that. But I believe with the improvements to their offensive line and with Fields' running capability that the Jets could steal a win here. So I got them with the win, and the Bucs starting 0-3. Week 4 versus Philly. Like, this is a tough start to the season as it is with these teams. And defending champion and the Eagles, I just believe the Eagles will be in a better position to win here. And I have the Bucs starting 0-4. So all you Bucs fans that are like, what the hell, man, just give it a second. I do, like I said, I still think the Bucs are a good team. I just think they're going to get off to a very rough start just because of their schedule and the injuries that they're dealing with. But week 5 at Seattle, I got that as a win. So they get their first win. Week 6 versus San Francisco. I think this will be a really tough game, but I do have the Bucs winning this game. So Bucs move to 2-4. Week 7 at Detroit on Monday Night Football. Big game between two conference opponents. Both division winners last year. The Bucs actually beat Detroit last year in the regular season, But I have Detroit getting a win here. I think they get their little bit of revenge right away in the regular season and possibly again in the playoffs. We'll see what happens. Week 8 at New Orleans Saints. That is a win for the Bucs. I don't think the Saints are going to be very good, which I don't think that's a surprise to anybody. I like some of the stuff they've done in the offseason. That doesn't mean I think they're going to be a winning team. Week 9, they get their bye going in at 3-5. People are stressed out. What are the Bucs going to do? But this is right where Baker wants to be, it seems like. He wants to be the underdog. He wants to be the guy that's down and going to have to fight his way back. So let's see what happens in the second half of the season. Week 10 versus New England at home. New England coming down to hot Tampa Bay later in the season. That's a win for the Bucs. Week 11 at Buffalo. So they travel up northeast. I got the Buffalo Bills winning that game. I do have the Bucs taking a loss. So right now they're 4-6. Week 12 at the Rams on Sunday Night Football. This is going to be one of those moments. It's like, here's two good teams. Now, depending on what happens with Stafford's back, that came out as well. I don't think I mentioned that earlier, that Stafford's dealing with some back stuff. Probably going to be resting up all preseason and try to practice the last week and a half before the regular season starts. But we'll see how that progresses over time. But right here, week 12 at the Rams. They go out west. I think this is a Bucs win. I think the Bucs are going to be the overall better team. And it should be a very competitive game. Should be fun for fantasy. But at the end of the day, I got the Bucs getting a win, Rams taking a loss there. Week 13 versus Arizona. This is another win for the Bucs. Just think they're the better team. Think by this point, everybody, that's going to be there is there. That those young guys on defense are stepping up. And we move on to week 14 versus the Saints again. That's another win. So they sweep the Saints. Week 15 versus Atlanta. Thursday night football, coming off an easy one against the Saints. This is a win. They get the revenge for that week 1 loss. Bucs take another win. That's 4 in a row. Week 16 at Carolina, division opponent, going on the road. I got them getting a win here. I got them taking a loss here. So they get that division loss on the road against the Panthers, who I think are going to be an up and down team all year. When we'll get into that as we get into their schedule. But week 17 at Miami, the Dolphins. This is late season. Who knows if Tua's playing? Who knows what's going on with Tyreek? Who knows if Mike McDaniels is even the head coach right now? But it's a game that you could see some points scored in, regardless of who the coach is, simply because Miami does still have talent. And I think with Quinn Ewers behind him, I don't like Zach Wilson, so I'm not even counting him. I think Quinn Ewers will be starting if something happens to Tua, but we'll see if that good Lord willing, Tua's all right. You know what I mean? I like Tua. I think he's a good player. I would like to see him play the full season and see what he's truly capable of. I'd like to see Miami take that next step, be able to beat teams that are over 500, but this ain't one of those games. So the Bucs get a win. Week 18 versus Carolina, that's another win. So overall, they finished, what was this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7-2 over their last 9 weeks after the bye. Make a great turnaround after that rough start, being 3-4 or 3-5 going into the bye. And they end up 10-7 and 4-2 in the division. They were 6-2 at home and 8-4 in the conference, which you'll see why that plays a part later. But moving on to the Atlanta Falcons. The Falcons last year went 8-9, missed the playoffs, had the Kirk Cousins in the situation after drafting Penix. Cousins ends up getting banged up. Penix starts the last few games of the season, shows a little bit of what he can do. Had a rough game one of the games, but overall, I think Penix, it's good for him to get those starts at the end of the year for a team that wasn't going to the playoffs probably. Like I said, they finished with an under 500 record. But this year this year I'm big on the Falcons. I'm a big Michael Penix guy, so I'm real happy with what he's capable of doing in college, and I can't wait to see what this happens in the NFL this year as him as a full-time starter getting off season. Now, the Mooney injury that I mentioned earlier, that's going to matter. I hope he gets back pretty quick. We'll see what happens with that. But they still got Drake London. Reports out of camp or Kyle Pitts is doing good, but I don't know how much I want to believe that if you're a fantasy football player. So that'll be a risk you're willing to take. I think I got him at 18 or 19 on the tight end list. But all the same, we move into their schedule like we talked about with the Bucs there versus Tampa Bay. Week 1 at home, that's a win. Week 2 at Minnesota on Sunday Night Football. Young quarterback in J.J. McCarthy, young quarterback in Michael Penix. The Vikings made some improvements among their offensive and defensive lines, but I don't trust Minnesota's DBs. And I think this is a game where Penix throws for 300 yards or something and a few touchdowns and gets the win there versus Minnesota. Week 3 at Carolina. They go into Carolina and get a win. Big division win early in the season. They're 2-0 in the division now, 3-0 overall. And going into week 4 versus the Washington Commanders, stopping Jaden Daniels is difficult. This is where they get their first loss. Washington gets that win. They go into their bye week in week 5. Coming out of that, they got 2 weeks to prepare for the Buffalo Bills on Monday Night Football. So 2 weeks and an extra day. Still not enough. The Bills are just a better team in my mind. Now, Buffalo missing those defensive tackles that they signed due to suspension. Maybe this is a game that the Falcons could steal, but right now I still feel like Josh Allen he's such a weapon, man. It's hard to say that they're not going to do good, that they're not going to be able to win a lot of games this year just because of Josh Allen alone. So, like I said, I got the Bills winning that one. Falcons fall to 3-2, moving into week 7 at San Francisco. Sunday Night Football, so this is another primetime game. I got them getting a win versus San Fran. I think the offense and the defense, like San Fran's lost some pieces. I think they had good depth, so they're going to fill in some of those spots with that. But you're going to see some games where they struggle or they drop one against a team they shouldn't. The Niners always do. And this is not to say that the Falcons shouldn't win this game, just saying that I think we expect more out of San Fran as a winning franchise than we have Atlanta out of the last few years. Now, like I said, San Fran lost a lot of parts. Is McCaffrey going to be able to stay healthy? Is Ayuk going to get healthy? There's a lot of questions they got, but I still like what San Fran's doing. If you watched our NFC West preview, I still got them as a competitive team that's most likely headed to the playoffs. So, but right here, I got them taking a loss. Falcons getting a win, moving to 4-2. Week 8 versus the Dolphins. I got the Falcons taking a loss here as well, right after the win over San Fran. I think Miami can put up some points. I think if McDaniel is fighting for his job or these guys get in line, that offensive line plays a little bit better, Miami could steal a win right here. I probably think the Falcons are the better team. But those offensive weapons in Miami with A-Chain and Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, they're just impressive. If Tua is healthy, they could put some points on the board. Atlanta's still going to have some games where their defense lets them down, even though they've made a lot of great improvements with their draft and a couple free agents and stuff. So it's just a game I feel like they could drop here. Miami gets a win there. So week 9 at New England, that's a win. I like what New England's doing. Like I said, I just don't know how many games they're actually going to win. They're going to be competitive with a lot of free agents, but that takes time to gel, man. Chemistry's got to be built with a lot of new parts, new head coach, new OC. Even though he's an old OC, he's the new OC for the guys that are there now. And New England's going to have their ups and downs this year. So Falcons get a win. Week 10 versus Indy. This is one of those overseas games. I have the Falcons getting a win. Now, this is a game that Indy could steal, just if they ride the back of Jonathan Taylor or maybe Richardson's playing well, using his physical gifts to run around. Reports out of Indy right now are that he is doing better, but who knows if that, camp buzz is camp buzz. We've seen plenty of superstars in the preseason that never did anything in a regular season. So my team has their favorite guy, Tom Kennedy. He don't do shit in regular season other than maybe like one time he caught like 3 passes. But the rest of the time, we just get excited watching him in the preseason because he's a fun player to watch. But Anthony Richardson's got talent, man. They've just mishandled the whole situation. If something clicked for him and he's better, then once I go through the AFC South, maybe I'm wrong about what I got predicted going on, but we'll get into that when we get there. So right now, I got the Colts taking a loss, Falcons getting a win. Week 11 versus Carolina. That's another win. So they sweep Carolina on the year. Week 12 at New Orleans. That's a loss. I get the Saints sneaking one here. This is one of those games that you come off. They won 3 in a row. They're feeling good and just slip up, man. And slip up and let a division opponent. Tyler Shuck, like I said, I'm big on him. I think he'll be the guy starting this year. By this time, he's figured a little bit out. He just comes out and sneaks a win in there. Week 13 at the Jets, going to New York later in the season, going to be chilly. And I got the Jets getting a win. Falcons taking a loss. Week 14 versus Seattle, that's a win. I got them getting a win here at home. Seattle coming out east, not all the way to the coast, but far enough east that it could make a difference. Week 15 at Tampa Bay, Thursday Night Football. I got that as a loss too. So they lose another one, 3 of their last 4. Week 16 at Arizona. That's one of those games Kyler Murray does some of his magic. Maybe James Conner rushes for a couple touchdowns, but I got the Falcons taking another loss. So they've lost 4 out of their last 5 starting in week 12. 2 games left, trying to lock up a division or at least try to take over the Bucs, depending on where they're at right now. They actually have the exact same record right now. But 2 weeks left, week 17 versus the Rams, Monday Night Football. I think this is the last Monday Night Football game of the season too. So Falcons get a win there. They go get a big win late in the season, push them up to 9-7. Week 18 versus the Saints. It's a ride or die situation here for the Falcons. I got them getting a win over the Saints after taking that earlier loss a few weeks ago against them. And they end the season 10-7. So overall 10-7, 4-2 in the division, 6-3 at home, and 8-4 in the conference. Head to head, they were 1-1 against the Bucs. So right now, it's going to come down to that at home record if nobody else could take over them. Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young's there. They got a new weapon in Teteroa McMillan, who I'm a huge fan of. I think he was a great pick at 8 there, pick 8, I believe it was in the first round this year. And to get him a huge weapon, because that's one of Bryce Young's thing, man. He throws a lot of hope balls. Well, McMillan's the type of guy that catches hope balls. He's big enough. He's got a huge frame, huge catch radius. They've made some improvements to their team. Last year, they went 5-12, obviously missed the playoffs. This year, we'll see if they can do a little bit better, maybe make a big jump. But right now, I feel like with the coaching staff, it's in its second year. They're going to be able to, grow upon what happened last year. But Bryce Young getting benched last year and then coming back in, taking the leaps that he made last year, that was great for him. Now the question is, can the team do it to where they can win games instead of just worried about one person's progression? Obviously, Bryce Young's still the focus point. There's no guaranteed that he's going to be good this year. Does he grow more? And that's what you want to see with young quarterbacks. Are they getting better each year? Are they getting better each week? Last year he had a setback, then came in and felt like it got better each week. We got to see if Cohen there can set him up with some more of the similar success that he did in the second half of last year. So week 1, Carolina Panthers take on they travel to Jacksonville, take on the Jags. I got them getting a win to start off the season. Jags got a new head coach. They got Travis Hunter, the big star there, but they still got to figure out what's going on. Is Bigsby their starter? Is Etienne their starter? Right now it sounds like Bigsby's going to be the starter. Etienne's going to be more that Rashad White role from last year. But I got the Panthers going in there and getting a win, this early season win. Week 2 at Arizona. If you watched our NFC West video, you know how I feel about Arizona. They're an up-and-down team. This is one of those down games. Panthers start off 2-0 after getting a win over the Cardinals and the Jags. Week 3, we just talked about it. They play the Falcons. They're at home. Falcons swept the Panthers, so you know what happened here. That's a loss for them. They are 2-1. Week 4 at New England. I got them going to New England getting a loss. I think the improvements that New England has made are enough to steal a win here from the Panthers because I think they're both teams that are trying to go up, continue to grow, continue to get better each week, but they're still teams that are not all the way there by any means. They still got moves to make, holes to fill, both of these teams. And it's just one I think that the Patriots could get there and steal that win, especially at home in New England. Week 5 versus Miami. I got that as another loss for the Panthers. So they dropped a 2-3. The Dolphins I think they'll be able to put up points. The Panthers made some improvements on defense, but is it enough to stop Miami's offense if all goes well down there? No, it is not. So week 6 versus Dallas, I got them stealing a win from the Cowboys. Right now, there's some dysfunction with the Cowboys. You know what's going on in the news with Michael Parsons, Jerry Jones running his mouth. Just bad business all around, it feels like, on his part and the Cowboys' part. So we'll see what happens with that. But right now I got the Dallas taking a loss, Panthers getting a win, getting a 3-3, 500. Team's feeling good. Week 7 at the Jets. It's another win for the Jets and a loss for the Panthers. This was a tougher game to pick just because I think the Jets are going to stumble even if they do have a successful season just because rookie head coach, rookie OC, New quarterback, new system, new everything. You know what I mean? Their defense is still going to be good with the players they have there and the additions they've made. That offensive line with Mimbu, I think that's an improvement. I think the Jets are going to be a solid team. So I got the Panthers getting a loss, Jets getting a win. Week 8 versus Buffalo. They're just not on Buffalo's level. And I don't see Buffalo stumbling here against the Panthers. Week 9 at Green Bay, going to Lambeau. Tough place to play. Jordan Love's got a lot of number 2 receivers out there to throw to. Tucker Kraft, Josh Jacobs could run all over the Panthers. And I think the Packers probably have a little bit better defense, short of their DB room right now, especially after Jair got cut. So we'll see what happens with that. But I got the Packers getting a win there. Panthers taking a loss. So they've dropped 3 straight, are now currently 3-6. Week 10 versus the Saints. I got them getting a win there. I almost wanted to give the Saints a win, but I ended up giving it to the Panthers here just because I think Panthers could probably score a little bit more and are probably just – they're a year ahead. You know, Kellen Moore's a rookie head coach. Tyler Shuck, or if it is Spencer Rattler or Jacob Hayner or whatever his name is, if it's any of those guys, the Saints aren't going to be as well. I think Shuck's the guy they should go with. I keep saying that, so no surprise that's how I feel. But Saints get the loss. Panthers get the win. Week 11 at Atlanta. That's a loss. Like I talked about with the Falcons. I just think they're a better team. Week 12 at San Francisco. Monday Night Football. Could they go out there and steal a win from the Niners? No, they cannot. Sorry to tell you, I still have more faith in the Niners than I do in the Panthers. Brock Purdy's a better quarterback than Bryce Young. George Kittle's a better tight end than anybody, even though I do love Mitchell Evans for the Panthers. He reminds me of Mark Andrews, so he's a rookie to watch out for, but they still like Jatavian Sanders a lot, so I don't know how much play he's actually going to get until later in the season. Maybe not until next season, so it's just something to keep an eye on, but I don't think the Niners are going to drop this one to the Panthers, so they take another loss. Week 13 versus the Rams at home, West Coast to East Coast for the Rams, but I still think the Rams are the better team. Now, this is a game that the Panthers could definitely steal if they catch them off guard or if Stafford's back's acting up, whatever. But right now, I don't see that defense giving up enough points against the Panthers for them to get the win. Week 14, late season bye week. Not good for a younger team. Like I talked about in some of the other videos, I would much rather prefer week 8, week 6, week 9, somewhere like that for this team. But week 14 bye, it is what it is. They got the short end of the stick on that one. Week 15, coming out of the bye at New Orleans, that's another win. I got them sweeping the Saints this year simply because I think the Panthers are going to be struggling to get wins, and they're going to have to get them against teams that they are better than and have to steal a couple from some other teams. Week 16, speaking of one of those steals, versus Tampa Bay. We talked about this with the Bucs schedule, just a game that Carolina comes out and steals one. Especially at home versus the Bucs. It'd be a big win later in the season for the team. 2 wins in a row here. They get to 6 and 9. Miracle. They get to 8 and 9, and they somehow sneak into the playoffs because of terrible NFC or something. But I don't see that happening. So there's a good chance they're not playing some players late here in these last few games where they're at right now. Week 17 versus Seattle. I got that as a loss for the Panthers. Like I said, I think there's going to be some guys that had injuries. They know they're not making the playoffs. You're going to see guys sitting these last couple weeks. Week 18 at Tampa Bay. I got that as another loss, as we talked about with the Bucs schedule. So overall, Panthers finished 6-11, 3-3 in their division. Obviously, won't matter about the playoff contention, so I didn't bother doing the conference and home records and all that. But like I said, 6-11 overall. We move on to the Saints. Saints last year it went 5-12, same as the Panthers. Did not make the playoffs, needless to say. This year they are starting. Derek Carr retired. Chris Olave hoping to be healthy after a concussion lost season basically last year. Rashid Shaheed hopes to be healthy after an injury last year. Tyrann Mathieu just retired like a week ago, which sucks because they signed Justin Reed, and it would have been nice to see those two playing together back there on the back end, helping that defense out. But it is what it is. He decided it's time to walk away. And most likely, like I said, I think they're starting Tyler Shuck, the second-round pick at quarterback. Now, maybe they don't want to do that. Maybe they want to give him a few games, 4 to 6 weeks or something. Let Rattler start. Seems he's had a couple better days than Shuck in the preseason or in training camp recently. But we'll see how everything shakes out in the preseason. I'm sure they're all going to start different games and see who does the best against other teams, whoever their starters are. But week 1 versus Arizona, if you watch the NFC West, this is a loss. Week 2 versus San Francisco, ditto. This is another loss for the Saints. They're starting 0-2. Week 3 at Seattle. I thought about having the Saints steal this game with Kamara, maybe catching some passes. Olave, Shuck has a good game. But I really like Seattle's DBs, and it's going to be a tough road up there against that defense for any team, especially with the addition of Eamon Warry, this rookie safety, the monster that they got out there now that they took in the second round. I just think Seattle's defense is going to be competitive enough to stop what the Saints got going on offense with the losses on the offensive line. They did just re-sign one of their former offensive linemen, so that helps out a little bit with that depth and with possibly starting. But like I said, I don't think the Saints are going to be very, very good this year. I think they'll show some spots here and there over the course of the season. Week 4 at Buffalo, you know what I say, not a chance in hell. That's a loss. So they're 0-4. Going into week 5 versus the Giants, I got them getting a win versus the Giants. Even with that pass rush, which I think is going to be dangerous, I just don't know how dangerous the Giants' offense is going to be. I like Brian Daboll personally as a play caller and everything. His struggles as a head coach have been documented since that first year there where they made the playoffs. And I think he won Coach of the Year that year for some odd reason because they made the playoffs. But Brian Daboll is a good offensive mind. I just don't know if the Giants are going to be able to win games this year either. They're like the Saints. They're like the Panthers. There's going to be games that they steal from teams that they're probably not as good as, but they aren't going to have a lot of teams that are on the same level across the board that they're going to be able to just beat. And this is a game that I got the Saints winning. They get their first win, go to 1-4. Week 6 versus New England. I think the improvement that the Patriots have made are definitely better than anything the Saints have done this offseason. With the addition of Diggs and Ryan Williams at receiver, the defensive additions they made, the draft pick, the offensive lineman. I feel like they had a lot of money to spend up there in New England, so they definitely put it to work. And New England gets the win here. Saints take another loss. Week 7 at Chicago, going to the Windy City. I don't know if Chuck will be ready for that or not with that defense. Now, if things don't go well for Chicago, they get off to a rough start or injuries happen or something. But I like what Chicago has on defense. I'm not confident in their offense by any means, but I do like what they have on defense. And I think Chicago's a good enough team to beat the Saints here. Week 8 versus Tampa Bay. As we talked about with the Bucs, this is a win for the Bucs. Not that they can't compete, as we talked about later in the season, but it's definitely a game that I think the Bucs should win, no problem. Week 9 at the Rams, going out west. That's a loss for the Saints. It's just going to be a tough road for the Saints this year, and they're just going to continue to pile up. Week 10 at Carolina. Like we just talked about with the Panthers, I believe they swept New Orleans. So the Saints take another loss here. Going into the bye, they are 1-9, going into a week 11 bye week. Time to regroup, figure out what to do. Should we sit somebody? Should we start other guys? What's going to happen here? We got to figure some stuff out. We got 2 weeks to prepare for a division opponent in the Atlanta Falcons coming out in week 12 versus the Falcons at home. Get a big division win. Not that it's going to matter in the playoff scheme, but its morale is up after that win. I promise you that. Week 13 at Miami, going down there to South Beach. I don't know if the Saints will be able to stop Miami as far as that speed that they have. And I got Miami getting a win, Saints getting a loss. Week 14 at the Bucs. That's another loss. Bucs sweep them on the season. Week 15 versus Carolina. Like we just talked about, Panthers sweep the Saints. Bucs swept the Saints. It was a rough year for the Saints, needless to say, here in the NFC South. Week 16 versus the Jets. This is another loss. I think that Jets defense, the running capability, like I talked about with them, of Fields, he's a dangerous weapon, man. As long as he's still starting, I think they got a chance. And they actually have one of the better backup situations with Tyrod Taylor, who's always been a serviceable player for every team he's ever played for. He just never got a chance. I think his size is one of the reasons, and he had a couple injuries in his history. But all the same, I love him as a backup quarterback, especially for Fields because they have a similar skill set. Taylor can run a little bit too. So, but at the end of the day, Jets get that win. Saints get the loss. Week 17 at Tennessee could be rookie versus rookie quarterback here. Cam Ward coming down. Cam Ward at home. I got the Saints going there and getting a win late in the season. Simply because I do think there's going to be games that they just show up, man, and the other team doesn't. This is one of those games. Week 18 at Atlanta, closing out the season on the road against a division opponent who's going for the division title. That's a loss for loss for the Saints, win for the Falcons. Saints finished the season 3-14, so they actually lost two more games, lost 2 wins off their total last year at 5-12. They're now 3-14, 1-5 in the division thanks to that win over Atlanta, and not a chance in hell at the playoffs. In contention for the number 1 overall pick. We'll see what happens with that. Do they go draft another quarterback? Do they do something else? We'll find out when 2026 draft comes around. But right now, this is how I got the division going, guys. Overall, like I said, tiebreaker came down to the Bucs having a better home record simply because the Falcons lost 3 home games. They got 9 home games this year. They both won 6. Bucs were 6-2 at home. Falcons were 6-3 at home, which gives them the lower winning percentage. Division goes to the Bucs on a technicality tiebreaker, and the Bucs repeat as division champs again. Falcons are 10-7, hoping to hold on to a playoff spot, one of those wild card spots. We're going to take a break real quick, and when we come back, we're going to go over to AFC South. So don't leave. We'll be right back. And we are back. Welcome back, everyone. Quick break there. We're going to get into the AFC South now. We just finished up the NFC South with the Bucs winning with the same record as the Falcons at 10-7, but a better home record. So getting into the AFC South, I mentioned it just a minute ago in the other half of this video about Anthony Richardson is back practicing, looking good apparently. I still think he's the more talented player as it is, but we'll see what happens with the Colts over the course of the season, and not being able to trust him or Daniel Jones definitely affects how I feel they're going to perform this year. We're going to kick it off, though, with the division champs from last year. That is the Houston Texans. They made the playoffs at 10-7, lost to KC in the second round after beating the Chargers in the first round. So definitely good for Stroud, even with all the injuries they had last year and that offensive line issues, which they've traded Laramie Tunsil to the Commanders, signed a bunch of guys, drafted a guy, hoping that it improves their offensive line. I believe it will just because some of the players they brought in. And I think the Houston Texans are going to be a good team this year. Not that they weren't last year. I just think they have a really good chance to be a really good team this year with the additions they've made in the receiver core. And even though they're not going to have Tank Dell this year, they got those 2 rookies out of Iowa State, and Higgins and Knoll. They traded for Christian Kirk from the Jags. Still got Dalton Schultz. I believe they re-signed him to a deal. And signed Nick Chubb with Joe Mixon now reported that he could start the season on the PUP list, more than likely, dealing with an injury. I think he had surgery this offseason. I can't remember for sure, but definitely something to pay attention to as far as fantasy goes, because if Nick Chubb is a starter, then that's the guy you want to draft and not Mixon. My attitude is it's going to be a mess. They'll probably both get drafted later, and whoever is the healthiest through the season is the one you're going to get the points from. But right now, Mixon's is banged up, and Chubb is running out there with the ones for part of practice, and we'll see what happens. But getting into it, week 1, Texans go out west. They play the Rams on the road. I have the Texans starting off the season with a win here against the Rams. Right now, if Stafford's back is acting up, I've got to take that into account. I also think the Texans are going to shock some people with what they're capable of doing on offense this year. So go out there, get a win against the Rams, good early season win. Week 2 versus Tampa Bay on Monday Night Football. We just did the NFC South record. You know this is a win for the Texans. Bucs take a loss. Texans go 2-0. Week 3 at Jacksonville. It's a division opponent. Trevor Lawrence getting in rhythm with BTJ and Travis Hunter there at receiver. I got the Jags stealing a win here from the Texans, and the Texans getting their first loss of the season. Week 4 versus Tennessee, division opponent, another one. I just think the Texans are a much better team than Tennessee is right now, especially with the losses on defense that Tennessee had. I don't know how well that defense is going to be able to hold up against good offenses, and I believe the Texans are going to be a good offense. So, Week 5 at Baltimore. This is a big game to kind of establish where the Texans are right now in the season, what they want to be going forward versus Baltimore at Baltimore. I got the Texans getting a win here. I think this is one of those games that could come down to the wire, high scoring affair, and Texans come out. But with that defense that they have, the Texans defense is impeccable, and they just got better in the offseason. I think they could slow Baltimore down a little bit. And if that's the case, Stroud comes out there and wings it against the Baltimore D. Like I said, I got the Texans getting a win, man. They're 4-1 going into their Week 6 bye. So they got an early bye, which may be good, maybe bad. We'll see. You never know. Maybe Mixon's coming back after the bye now. Now they got Chubb and Mixon in the backfield along with the rookie, and see what they can do after that. Week 7 at Seattle, Monday Night Football, going out west. I got them getting a win here. I think they're just a better team. I think their defense is impeccable. I think Darnold with that offensive line and only really JSN and the old Cooper Kupp at receiver. I know they got the rookie Tony Horton up there as well. And they just cut Noah Fant. So Elijah Arroyo looks like he's going to be the one that's starting, or it could be the A.J. Barner kid who showed out a little bit last year. We'll find out. But I imagine both of them are going to get some clock this year. Arroyo's got to improve his blocking, though, before he's going to get on the field full time. So just something to note when you're thinking about fantasy. Don't just be excited because Fant's gone that Arroyo's the guy. Arroyo's got to improve blocking. But right now, I got the Texans going up there and getting a win against Seattle on Monday Night Football. Week 8 versus San Fran. This is going to be a tougher game. DeMeco Ryans knows his team, though. That's where he was a defensive coordinator before he got hired on with Houston as the head coach. And I think DeMeco goes back there and gets a win, man. I think they'll be able to compete offensively, and I think Houston has a better defense than San Francisco this year. So definitely a big win for them against former team, like I said, with Ryans. Week 9 versus Denver. This is probably going to be the toughest game on their schedule all year. And that's just how I feel about it, because I told you how I feel about Denver in the AFC West video that we just put out. Denver's going to be a really good team this year. I got them going 12-5 and winning the division. That's another tiebreaker like the NFC South, which was. But right now, I got Houston getting a win here and really establishing themselves as one of the best teams in the AFC this year. After the win over Baltimore, now a win over Denver, that's two big playoff competitors that you have the tiebreaker over now. Week 10 versus Jacksonville. They've already played them once. They took that loss early in the season at Jacksonville. This one's at home. Got them getting another win. Week 11 at Tennessee. They've already played Tennessee. They beat them the first time at home. Now they go on the road. This could be a trap game like we talked about. They got a couple big wins there coming into this game. But I just think the Texans are on a mission this year is how I feel about it, man. I think DeMeco Ryans wants to have that chance to play in that AFC Championship game and get to a Super Bowl. I think they got the talent to do so. Their biggest question is that offensive line, which is, how I feel. Other than quarterback, to me, that's the most important group on the field. Quarterback's the most important position, but the O-line, I just think they've made enough improvements. And with that defense and with Chubb and Mixon once he gets back, the new receiving core, I am a big fan of what the Texans are doing and what the Broncos are doing this year. I think they're going to be two of the better teams in AFC. Right now, they're on a 7-game win streak or something like that, taking this win over Tennessee and sweeping the season series in the division. Week 12 versus Buffalo, Thursday Night Football. It's a quick turnaround after 2 division games and the game with Denver, San Fran. It's just been a lot. Like I said, they got 7 wins in a row. They're due for a loss. Buffalo gets to win there. Buffalo is still one of those teams that I think with Josh Allen's capabilities. Now, this wasn't an easy pick for Buffalo. I almost gave the Texans the win, but I feel like they're going to stumble at some point. I mean, most teams do, whether it's early in the season or later in the season. You always see it's almost like they get bored with winning and they come out flat a game. Then the next game, somebody gets to jump on them, a couple turnovers, whatever. But you always see a team, even the best teams, lose a game or 2 in a row just out of nowhere. The Chiefs have done it. The Niners used to do it on a regular basis. Teams do it on a regular basis. So I got Buffalo getting a win here. Week 13, turnaround. They go to Indianapolis. This is just one of those games, man. Division game. Like I said, they come out, maybe Stroud throws a pick six or something. Colts jump out. They try to run the ball to control the clock. Richardson snapping off. You never know what could happen if he's healthy all season. Like, I believe they have a good capability to score points with that offense. And the improvements on defense help, but I don't think they're one of the better defenses in the league. I think they're mediocre. You know what I mean? But Colts come out here and get a win again. So that's 2 losses in a row. Week 14 at Kansas City on Sunday Night Football, coming off 2 losses. And they drop another one. They drop a 3rd in a row to the Chiefs on Sunday Night Football. So they give them in Buffalo the tiebreaker over them. Week 15 versus Arizona, that's a win. They got to get off the skid. They know they get a chance to win this division and possibly get a bye if they're good enough. They just lost 3 in a row. Arizona doesn't stand a chance at this point against that defense. Week 16 versus the Raiders, Las Vegas. At home, if this would have been on the road, I would consider having the Raiders upset them. I think they're going to be a competitive team like I've talked about already. But at home, I got the Texans getting a win here. Week 17 at the Chargers, going out west. They're up and down right now. They've had their struggles. They had their little 3-game loss. Now they've won 2 in a row. They dropped this one to the Chargers, though. The Chargers are fighting for their lives. They've probably already locked up the division at this point, depending on what these other 3 teams do. And they drop one, so they're 11-5 going into Week 18 versus Indy at home. They're not losing that one. They're going to make sure they at least get their 12th win of the season. So overall, Texans go 12-5, 4-2 in the division. And right now, we're obviously in a good position to win this division this year. Next team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last year, they went 4-13. We know the injury with Trevor Lawrence, where Mac Jones came in. Christian Kirk was out for the year. They just had a lot going wrong. But they've hired the guy from the Bucs, the offensive coordinator from the Bucs, as their head coach. Trying to get some change here. They made the trade up to get Travis Hunter, a 2-way player probably, and it sounds like he's going to be doing it at least for 35 plays a game on each side. Now, I wonder how long he'll be able to sustain that and all that, everything else. But he is a special talent, and we're going to see what he could do. But he's been doing a lot of offensive drills, got into some more defensive drills as they've got into training camp and preseason time now. But definitely working on offense. I think he's going to be used there more, especially with that offensive-minded head coach. So Week 1 versus Carolina. I got this as a loss. We just talked about in the NFC South. Carolina comes out, gets a win. Jags drop their first one. This is they're trying to figure things out. That defense needs some improvement still. Offensive line issues. We'll see what happens over the course of the season. But Week 1, they dropped that game to Carolina. Week 2 at Cincinnati. Now, you know how I feel about Cincinnati. They still haven't re-signed Trey Hendrickson or extended Trey Hendrickson. He wants money, but he did show up to camp. I don't know how much he's practicing. They did get Shamar Stewart signed. There was a little give on each way as far as the contract details go. I don't remember if their second rounder has signed his contract yet, but Cincinnati definitely is looking like they're going to have their guys ready for the season. Other than Hendrickson, I'm not 100% sure about that, but it was good to get the rookie in there and get that headache out of the way as far as the negative attention it was bringing. But this is a game that I just don't think the Jags can score with Cincy. I don't think either of these defenses are going to be top notch, and I don't think the Jags can score with what Cincy's capable of scoring. So I got this win going to Cincy. Jags dropped to 0-2. Week 3, we just talked about it with the Texans. Texans are 2-0. Jags are 0-2. Jags need a win. They come out and get one at home against a division opponent. Get their first win going into Week 4 at San Francisco. They got to go out west. I got this as a loss for the Jags. I don't think they can go out there and beat the Niners, barring a surprise of better play from that offensive line. I don't know how good it's going to be this year, and it's my main concern with the Jags and their offense. Week 5 versus Kansas City, Monday Night Football. These are just teams on 2 different levels. That's all there is to it. I don't think the Niners are that much better than the Jags. I do think the Chiefs are that much better than the Jags. And I think this is not an easy win, but not a hard win either for the Chiefs there in Week 5. Week 6 versus Seattle at home, West Coast coming east. That's going to be a win for the Jags. So they get their second win. They're 2-4 now, going into Week 7 versus the Rams. This is an overseas game, which they're kind of the home field team, but I don't think they're better than the Rams. Now, like I just talked about with these other teams that play them, if Stafford's back is acting up, he's not playing. They got Jimmy G in there. Who knows what could happen? But right now, I'm predicting the Stafford's still playing, and they're just a better team than the Jags. I think they have the better defense with those young kids they got now, even after Donald retired a couple years ago. Verse, I forget the kid's name they drafted this year now, but he's a really good player. Anyways, that young defense is going to be attacking, and it's going to be tough for Trevor Lawrence and with that offensive line. So I got the Rams getting a win overseas. Jags coming back to their bye week in week 8, week 9 at Las Vegas. Like I talked about the Raiders, I think they're going to be a very competitive team this year. The Jags, I still worry about what's going to happen with them. Like I said, overall, between the O-line and the defense. These are two teams that have a lot of turnover right now, but I got the Raiders getting a win, Jags getting a loss. Week 10 at Houston. We just talked about it with the Texans. This is a loss for the Jags. I don't think they're going to be able to beat them twice by any means. Week 11 versus the Chargers. At home, Chargers coming west. Chargers got a lot of West Coast to East Coast games this year, and this is one they dropped to the Jags. So the Jags get their third win. We move on to Week 12. That'll be at Arizona, going out west. This is a game, like I said, with Kyler Murray. He is sporadic, man. He goes up and down. Cardinals are up and down team. But this is one the Cardinals win, the Jags lose. Week 13 at Tennessee, division opponent, rookie quarterback. I do think that Jags have the better offensive weapons than the Titans, and I think that's what proves to be the difference. It's probably some game like 27-24 or something. Tennessee just can't put up enough on the board, and the Jags get the win here in the division. Week 14 versus Indianapolis. This was probably the tougher games. The games against Indy were definitely tough for me to choose. I like Trevor Lawrence more. I trust Trevor Lawrence more than I trust Anthony Richardson or Daniel Jones at this point. This is really what the difference is. The Colts have lost members of the offensive line with Fries and Ryan Kelly both going up there to Minnesota. They just re-signed Rainman to a big contract, long-term deal. But I just don't think the Colts are going to have the horses this year. No pun intended. But the Colts get the loss here. Jags get the win. We go to Week 15 versus the Jets. That defense is going to be able to stop the Jags offense, and the Jags defense is not going to be able to stop Justin Fields. So as long as Fields is healthy, Jags take another loss here. Week 16 at Denver, two teams on two different levels. Denver's got an easy win here. Jags take the loss, especially with Denver being at home. No questions asked. Week 17 at Indianapolis. I got them getting another win. They can sweep the Colts this year. And Week 18 versus Tennessee, that's a loss. Cam Moore gets his revenge for earlier, gets a late season win. Good to end the season on a win going into next year for a young quarterback. Overall, the Jags finished 6-11. They are 4-2 the division, surprisingly, after sweeping the Colts. But they just 6-11 is not going to cut it. So they got 2 more wins than they did in 2023 or in 2024, but not enough to make the playoffs. I think they still have another year before they got to improve that offensive line. They got to get some more pieces on defense and truly build a team. Maybe get Brenton Strange, you hope can pop off. We don't know if he's ever going to be like a full-time guy that you can count on a tight end. We'll see. We'll find out. He showed out a little bit last year, but I just don't have the Jags winning a lot of games, partially because of the schedule they play, man. They got a tough road ahead. I think Houston's going to be really good, and the Titans are going to be one of those teams just like the Jags, that are up and down, so I got them splitting. On to the Colts. Indianapolis Colts. Last year, the Colts went 8-9, surprisingly. I don't know how many of us knew they went 8-9 last year. It didn't feel like it. Jonathan Taylor snapped at the end of the year. I had him on my team. He tried to help me win a championship in fantasy in my home league. Couldn't pull it out, but definitely went off in the second half of the season, or in the last few weeks of the season. But he let you down part of the season too, and that's the biggest problem. Like if you can't even count on their best player, which is Jonathan Taylor, it's going to be tough for me to get a lot of wins here for the Colts. So we'll get into that, especially with the quarterback issues. Like I said, with Richardson, I love Richardson as a prospect. They've mishandled the situation, starting them early instead of letting them sit. They brought in decent competition that is not a real threat in Daniel Jones, which is probably good for the psyche. But Anthony Richardson probably also knows he's better than Daniel Jones. So I don't know how much of that. But the funniest thing I heard about Anthony Richardson was, I'm laying off Skittles. This was an article I read, and I thought to myself, is this really worth an article that you are laying off Skittles? All right, dude. I guess that's the big move for a guy that's trying to improve and mature and grow. Now, like I said, Richardson, all the talent in the world, physical freak. We know the tests from the combines, all that. He broke every record and shit. He's a physical freak, man. If he can put it together, he's going to be special. That's all there is to it. But he's got to put it together. Steichen's got to put him in position. I just don't know what the Colts are going to be this year. So, week 1 versus Miami. I say all that, and then I come out and give the Colts a week 1 win versus the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins could start off on the wrong foot, just not knowing what to do. At home versus the Colts. Dolphins on the road week 1. They just sneak a win out here, no problem. Week 2 versus Denver. That's not going to be so easy. Denver's defense is probably the best defense in the league this year. It's real close if it ain't the best. And what they can do is going to be able to shut down the Colts offense. So that's a loss for the Colts, 1-1 going into week 3 at Tennessee. This is a loss for the Colts. I think at Tennessee is a tough game for them. These are two teams that are not going to be competing for playoffs, honestly. I don't see either one of these teams doing very well this year. And it's just one I got the Titans winning. Cam Ward comes out and gets a win. Richardson, Daniel Jones, I don't think it really matters just because I think that Cam Ward, I like Cam Ward. That's all there is. He's like a baby Ben Roethlisberger to me, man. His escapability in the pocket is the most impressive thing I've seen. Got a big arm, does really well reading the field. He can improve on a handful of things, but I just like what he is. I feel like he's a much more of a developed quarterback than either of the guys on the Colts, and that's why I got him getting a win there. Week 4 at the Rams. This is a loss. I don't think they're as good as the Rams. I don't think that defense is going to be something that the Colts can score very much on. This is probably going to end up going to be like a 21-7 game or 27-10. I don't think the Colts will be able to score on that Rams defense very much. Week 5 versus the Las Vegas Raiders. I got this as a loss as well, man. I told you, I like what the Raiders did. I think they've made a lot of improvements that make them a very competitive team. This is one of those that they win with their competitiveness. Week 6 versus Arizona. Got this as a win, man. Like I talked about. At home, Arizona coming west on the road, or coming east on the road. We don't know what Kyler Murray is going to show up. So I'm going to give the Colts a win here. Week 7 at the Chargers. Chargers are just a better team, man. They're not going to be able to beat the Colts, even with all the past history that I've talked about before. Chargers are just a better team. So Chargers get the win. Colts take another loss. They're 2-5 right now. Week 8 versus Tennessee. I got them getting their revenge here, getting a win. So they're 3-5. Week 9 at Pittsburgh. I originally had the Colts winning this game, even with the signing of Aaron Rodgers. I don't trust that the Steelers are going to win a lot of games. If you guys watch our AFC North predictions, I think they were 7-10 on the season. So I got the Colts taking a loss here against Pittsburgh. I think the defense, they got Watt signed. That's a great move. They got the rookie Sawyer out of Ohio State. I think they got enough on defense to slow the Colts down and can steal a win there with maybe a Rodgers to Metcalf or Rodgers to Jonnu Smith, who they traded for. All the same, Pittsburgh gets the win. Colts take another loss. Week 10 versus Atlanta. We just talked about this in the NFC South. This is a loss for the Colts. Week 11 is the Colts bye week, so they get a little breather here later in the season. Week 12, they are at Kansas City. They're not going to be able to beat Kansas City. I don't think they have the horses to do that. Again, no pun intended. It's just they're two different teams. They're two different teams and two different points in their development and progression as franchises. So week 13 versus Houston. I got them still in that win like we just talked about with the Texans. This is just a division opponent. They're at home, just still in a win versus the Texans who slipped up here. Week 14 at Jacksonville. We just talked about this as well. This is a loss for the Colts. Week 15 at Seattle. So they got to go out west to Seattle. That's a tough place to play, especially later in the season. It's a dome team going to an outdoor stadium. Seattle's defense, those DBs are really good. And I got Seattle getting a win, Colts taking a loss. Week 16 versus San Fran, Monday Night Football. San Francisco could be competing for their division. The Colts are not. It's just two teams that are playing differently right now. I got San Fran getting a win, Colts taking another loss. Week 17 versus Jacksonville. You already know how this ends because the Jags swept them. That's another loss. Week 18 at Houston, as well as this. Texans got that win the Week 18 game. Colts take another loss. Finished the season on a 5-game losing streak. I personally think Shane Steichen's probably getting fired. If not before the season ends, after the season, if this is how it goes. Colts finished 4-13, 2-4 in the division. I just don't see a lot of wins coming unless Richardson really takes that next step. Fantasy-wise, Richardson could score 25 points a game, and the Colts could still lose games. That's just how it is. Football-wise, the Colts are a hard team to trust for anybody right now in my mind. So it's something that they're going to have to show me something over the next few weeks in the preseason here that they're running much better than I expect them to. We see that even in the preseason. If I see it's a little more smooth, I like the play calling a little better. Shane Steichen, stop calling 3 pass plays in a row, man. First, second down, third pass plays. That's a terrible formula. Unless you're in a 2-minute drill, you shouldn't be doing that shit in the middle of the second quarter for no apparent reason other than we don't want to run the ball with one of the best running backs in the league still. He's still top 10 running back probably as far as actual running back skills. Jonathan Taylor's a damn good back, and they need to lean on him more, similar to what they did at the end of the season. Let that guy carry you. Let Richardson use his talents off of play action and that big arm. But stop calling pass, and 3 and out in this shit because you're killing me with it, man. This is my problem with Steichen. I just don't understand why that's a good – when you're already behind and you come out and you're rushing it and you're forcing passes – when you should still be trying. You're not down 20, you're down 7, and you're acting like you're down 20. That's the bad move that I keep seeing out of the Colts, and it's putting their quarterbacks in bad positions. It's putting their team in a bad position. So I expect more out of that. I expect better play calling. I expect better execution before I can say, yes, the Colts are going to win a bunch of games and make the playoffs. So, and this isn't for lack of belief in Richardson. Like I said, last year I thought the Colts had a really good chance to win the division because of Richardson. I've been let down. I can't keep doing it. He got hurt his rookie season, got banged up last year. I just can't keep believing in a guy that, granted, I love everything about his talent, hasn't done it. So Colts are going 4-13. We move on to the final team in AFC South. That's the Tennessee Titans. Last year, the Titans went 3-14, had the mailman and Mason Rudolph playing QB. Not a very good year. They've traded Kenny Murray to the Cowboys, a linebacker. They just didn't do a lot, man. That's how I feel. They get Skoronski back, though, to help with that O-line. They drafted Cam Ward, obviously, the rookie, who I was a big fan of, like we just talked about, Baby Ben. The A.O. Maynard kid, I think he's going to end up being an impact player for them this year over the course of the season. Maybe not right away, but week 6, week 8, you see him start coming on. Could be that number 2 receiver eventually. They signed Tyler Lockett. They still have Calvin Ridley, Okonkwo, and they drafted the kid out of Texas, Gunnar Helm, the tight end, who's a good little receiving weapon, and you could use him in screens and stuff like that. So definitely something that they have some potential. I'm not a big fan of their defense, and he's a rookie quarterback. We can't expect – not everybody's Jaden Daniels, all right? They can come and carry their team to the playoffs rookie season. That's just not who everyone is. Cam Ward is not Jaden Daniels. Cam Ward is a guy that's going to be a very good quarterback for a long time. I don't know if he'll ever be great, but he'll definitely be very good for a very long time, and you can build around him. So week 1, going into the Titans schedule, week 1 at Denver. Cam Ward, like I said, with the Broncos and AFC West video, they're not going to be able to stop. They're not going to be able to compete against Denver's defense. And Bo Nix and that new run game with R.J. Harvey and Dobbins, they re-signed Sutton to his big deal. That offense is ready to roll, and the defense is going to be one of the toughest defenses to play against all season. That's a tough way for the rookie to start. Sorry, Cam Ward. Week 2 versus the Rams, right back with another tough defense. That's another loss for the Titans. Week 3 versus the Colts, like we just talked about with the Colts schedule. Titans get their first win here. I trust Cam Ward even as a rookie, more than I do Richardson and Jones right now. I think that is the difference. The way these quarterbacks play in this game. Cam Ward makes a few more plays. Richardson, Daniel Jones make a few more mistakes. Week 4 at Houston. They're just not on Houston's level. That's a tough game, division game at Houston against that defense with Stroud and those weapons. I just don't think the Titans can put up the points that Houston can. Week 5 at Arizona. This is a loss, man. This is one of those where Kyler Murray shows up. He's at home, got Marvin Harrison 30 pounds heavier of muscle and all that good stuff that they talk about. Connor's still there. McBride's still a stud. Hopefully they can find enough. Maybe they sign Keenan Allen. He's visiting with the Chargers, I heard, so he might end up going back there after the Mike Williams retirement. But at the end of the day, I got Arizona getting a win, Titans getting a loss. Week 6 at Las Vegas, another road trip game. That's 3 road games in a row. They're just wore out. Raiders are a competitive team. They get the win there. Geno does some magic out there, maybe drops a couple bombs to Dante Thornton, my guy. I want to draft him later in the draft, man. I'm excited about it. Week 7 versus New England. Drake May, second-year guy. A lot of improvements like we talked about with them. But it's not enough to beat the Titans for some odd reason. Cam Ward drops a bomb, throws it to Lockett on a game winner. Week 8 at Indianapolis, like we talked about with the Colts record, this is a loss for the Titans. They just can't get that win there after beating them earlier in the season at home. Week 9 versus the LA Chargers. That's a loss. Just 2 different teams on 2 different levels. Although I don't have the Chargers probably making the playoffs, I do think they're a really good team. They're just going to take some tough losses this year. They're definitely better than the Titans. This is not one of those losses. Titans take a loss, heading into their Week 10 bye week. Get a little breather here. Would have liked that a couple weeks earlier for that young team. But at the end of the day, Week 11, we're coming out. 2 weeks to prepare versus Houston, division opponent. Lost to them earlier in the season. And they take another loss. We already talked about with the Texans schedule. Week 12 versus Seattle. At home versus Seattle. You'd love to see this win, but I got them taking a loss. I think Darnold does enough. JSN, maybe Ken Walker goes crazy against that defense. Week 13 versus Jacksonville. That's a loss. Division loss. You don't like to see that, but Trevor Lawrence just makes a few more plays. BTJ goes crazy. Maybe Bigsby or ETN take off. You never know. But I do have the Jags getting a win, Titans taking a loss. Week 13 at Cleveland. That's a tough place to go play later in the season against that defense. Mason Graham's probably on a roll right now, having a field day with Garrett on one end, right next to him and stuff. Like, he just got single matchups all day long, having fun. Shador could be starting by now, so I thought about giving them the win here, and it's definitely a game. If Shador is starting, I think they could win. But against that defense, it's just tough to see him going in there into Cleveland and beating out Myles Garrett and Denzel Ward and them. So got Cleveland with a win, Titans with another loss. Week 15 at San Francisco, just 2 different teams in my mind. I still think San Fran's the better team. They pull out the win there. Week 16 versus Kansas City. At home versus KC. This could be one of those slip-up games from Kansas City, but I believe they lost the week before when I did their schedule, and this is why I gave them the win, simply because I think the Titans might put up some points here, just sneak a couple touchdowns. But KC is just a better team. They're Super Bowl contender, and that's just the facts about it. Week 17 versus New Orleans. I got them taking a loss here, man. This is one of those few Saints wins. Definitely a game Titans can win, but I think Tyler Shuck could show a little bit here at the end of the season and really figure out, once he got his feet underneath him, figuring it out. And against the Titans defense, like I said, I don't have a lot of faith in them being able to stop a lot of teams. Kamara's dangerous. You can make a couple drop-off passes to him. Falave's healthy. Rashid's healthy. Juwan Johnson's healthy. They just got a few more weapons that I trust. Week 18 at Jacksonville. We just talked about with the Jags schedule. This is a win for the Titans. They finished the season on a win after a 8-game losing streak. Whew, that's rough. Like I said, there's a couple games in there Titans could definitely win, but I don't see the Titans getting a lot of wins to where they're competing for a playoff spot or a division this year. Got them finishing 3-14, which is the same as the Saints? I believe the Saints got 3. So that game against the Saints could be a big difference of who gets the first pick. But 3-14, 2-4 in the division. Got no primetime games for the Titans this year. No Thursday games. Colts didn't have any Thursday games either. There's a few teams. I thought every team, I said this in the other video, I thought every team had to have a Thursday game, but there's 2 teams in this division don't have any Thursday night games. So they won't put them on primetime even on Thursdays. You know that's rough. They're not expecting a lot out of them either, which I'm not either. At the end of the day, the Texans win the division at 12-5, 4-2 in the division. Jags come in second at 6-11, 4-2 in the division. Colts come in third at 4-13, 2-4 in the division. And the Titans round out the basement there at 3-14 and 2-4 in the division. Texans are the only team making the playoffs here. All the other teams will probably be picking in the top 10. Good chance of that. We'll see what happens, but this is how I feel about it. With the NFC South and AFC South here together, you guys let me know what you think. It's a little bit longer video, but like I said, I'm trying to get through these divisions so I can get to my playoff predictions and then start getting into more fantasy now that the preseason's starting. So appreciate all the support. If you can, click that subscribe button, leave a comment. Tell us we're doing great. Tell us we suck, whatever you want, man. It's your opinion versus mine. So at the end of the day, I just want to say I appreciate you guys watching. Hope everyone having a good afternoon, good evening, good morning, whatever time you're watching. Until next time, I'm out. First down punts.